The following is a presentation of the ControlTrends podcasting network.
Pirates throughout history have known that if you want to find treasure, you need two things: a map and a way to get the treasure. And our sponsor this week has both. They know where a $4 billion treasure chest exists, and they know exactly how to get it. In fact, the joke is that we walk right by this treasure chest every day thinking that there's no way to get the treasure. Well, that's until now. Our sponsor this week is Siemens, and they are looking for a few innovative contractors that want to go on a treasure hunt with them. You see, there are over 6 million rooftop units that are not being properly controlled. This is according to the Department of Energy, and they say that rooftop units account for 60% of all the air conditioning load in the United States, and that each unit is wasting on average between $900 and $3,700 a year in energy. Think about it. So with all the attention around decarbonization and ESG mandates, how long do you think the government is going to let this go on? You might not be thinking about this, but your customers are. And someone's going to help them solve the problem, so why not you? You probably know the reason why this problem exists in the first place. The rooftop market is competitive, and to win on bid day, a bidder could only provide the cheapest form of control, usually a thermostat. So now you know where the treasure is, but how do you get it? You're probably thinking putting a proper control system in for 1 or 2 rooftop units is going to be way too expensive. And in the past it was. But now Siemens has introduced the Siemens Climatic RTU rooftop solution. And it brings all the functionality of a more sophisticated system. You're probably thinking putting a proper control system in for 1 or 2 units is way too expensive. And it has been until now with the introduction of the Climatic RTU from Siemens. This solution brings all the functionality of a more sophisticated and expensive system in an easy-to-use and cost-affordable solution. And with the ESG concerns not going away and people talking about saving energy and indoor air quality being at the forefront of everybody's mind, Siemens has the key to unlock the treasure chest. So what's the catch? Well, the catch is you're going to have to take some action. You're going to have to bring this to your customers and make a sale. The great news is that Siemens and their local distributors are there to help. They can help train your sales staff and your technicians. All you need to do is set up some appointments with your customers and let Siemens help you close the sale. In the meantime, you can just click on the link in the show notes and get more information about this, including a free, no obligation sales kit. The only question you need to ask is, will you be the one telling your customers about this, or will your competitors? Siemens is ready when you are, so raise your hand and hop on the pirate ship. Go get some treasure. Welcome to episode 416 of Control Talk Now, where we talk about all things HVAC and smart building controls, including sales and marketing. I was at Haystack Connect last week in Nashville, and it was super impressive, the people and the content. It was so good meeting people that came from overseas. For example, Siemens sent a bunch of people from Switzerland. So shout out to Christian and Alex and the rest of the group from Siemens. And from Wales, we had Emma and Steve from Phantom Factory. They have a really great training solution you're going to want to know about. Joseph and his team from Dual Fuel, Boiler Guys, loved that. They were from New York. Robert Harlan, Carlos, Jamie Lee. Well, I could go on for the whole show talking about all the cool people that were at Haystack Connect. But the point is that people in our industry are great. And I caught a lot of them on video talking about their products and their solutions. And I've started posting them on ControlTrends, so be sure to check them out. The big takeaway, if I had to have just one, was the introduction of Zetto. Zetto is the latest and greatest iteration of Haystack Connect for tagging. It's really cool. I did an interview with Brian Frank, who explains it so much better than I could. And I've got it live on ControlTrends now. So rather than me try to explain Zetto, just click on the link and watch that video. And speaking of great events and great people, I'm off to Real-Time Imicon to cover the show and help Jim Young, Howard Berger, and Lisa Woods celebrate their 25th show. Well done, guys. Very impressive. So if you see me at the show and if you're there, please come up and say hello. I'll be the guy with the camera and the microphone. Can't wait. Hope to see you there. So now with that, let's get on to this week's guest. Zero. It is not often I get another podcaster in the house, but I have one today. Old friend of mine, Tim Vogel. You know him from KMC Controls. He is the VP of Connected Solutions at KMC, and he is also a badass podcaster. So if you have not heard or listened to Building Geniuses yet, you got to check it out. I'll put some notes in the show notes. But enough about me. Let's talk about you, Tim Vogel. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Eric. It's good to be here again. I always enjoy it.
We have some fun, don't we? I mean, you know, I think about the KMG Geniuses Summits that I've been at, and you and I usually find a little way to spice things up and get in a little bit of trouble, right?
We try to. Not too much trouble. Keep it above board.
Listen, for our audience who might not know, sort of walk them through your journey a little bit. How do you wind up at KMC Controls? I mean, you just come out of the womb that handsome, or you know, if you had some work done? Tell us all about it. It's a lot of work.
Just a little work, yeah. So, I first started at KMC back in 2016, and honestly, Eric, I think you and I have probably had, what was this, maybe our fifth time having a conversation. I started at KMC, marketing manager, and I was brought in just to help with the brand, help with the messaging. At the time, we were really starting our relationship with Dell. You know, Dell had their big splash into the industry a few years ago, and Intel, who we're still partners with now. And, you know, that was a lot of fun for me. That was a lot of new experiences for me. I spent about 2.5 years at KMC, and then I left, and I ended up working for an industrial pump and valve company that was out of Finland. And it was interesting, too, because after I left, you interviewed me and you said, how the heck did you get out of the industry? And I said, well, I don't know how, but it just kind of worked out. I was there for only a year. Great people, good experiences, but talking with Richard Newberry, KMC CEO at the time, he wanted me back, and I was interested in coming back. You know, some things were changing about Commander, and that was pretty much when I came back then to run. So I came back and I was working on the sales side, started working more on the development side, on the support side, and then from there, my responsibilities just sort of grown outward and upward, and trying to build out a strategy that works for KMC. That's more than just a single product. That's cloud based, but more, how do we work around interoperability or multiple vendors coming together to build a solution? There's no way that KMC can be everything to everybody. And so working with other partners to help either on the analytics side, the physical security side, just as all that comes together, what's the strategy around that? And now we got some more fun and exciting things.
Well, excellent. So there you go. That was my guest this week, Tim Vogel. He just told you everything you need to know. I'm just messing with you, dude.
Yeah.
All right,
great chat, Eric.
I want to go back. I want to go back to Finland because there are lots of rumors floating around your time in Finland. Okay, so the big rumor is that
most of them are true. Yeah.
That they interviewed you like in a steaming sauna, and then you had to go jump in the North Sea, like sub-freezing temperature, and you passed that interview, but that was kind of like an everyday sort of thing. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah. So what had happened is my first day on the job, they flew me out to Finland because it just so happened to be in January is when they would do their big international sales meeting. So literally I'm on a flight. I don't even have a login yet to Microsoft. And I get there and I have no idea really what to expect. And it's a really honestly kind of an interesting part of the culture of Finland, and part of their history and tradition is the sauna. And so being told that we're going to go to this traditional Finnish sauna that the company owns and all that, and really it's not that weird of a thing over there, but to us Americans it's like, man, what is happening and where are we going, and it's late at night and we're drinking and then it's like, all right, let's go to the sauna, and this thing is 107 degrees Celsius.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Celsius.
Holy smokes, dude.
And it's like I get in there and I'm holding my beer in this hand and my eyelids are burning off, and the skin on my back where my shoulder blades are, it's like that's burning, and my new coworkers next to me, we're cheek to cheek sitting on this tiny little steamy bench, And he just slaps me on the back and says, "Oh, you'll be fine." I was like, "Oh, no, don't."
Oh, my
and
God.
after about 10, 15 minutes, I get my back scrubbed by my boss, and that was fun. And then we go out down to the frozen lake, and we jump into the frozen lake. And, I mean, I'll be honest, I climbed down the ladder. The only thing I remember about being in the water, Eric, is someone saying, "Just think about how they felt when the Titanic sank."
Oh, my
and then,
gosh.
Like, next thing I know, I'm like, Jack and Rose is about to let me go, and I'm going to sink down to the bottom, and that was it. But I'll tell you what.
Yeah, that was one of the great lies ever told on screen. When, if you haven't seen the scene, Leonardo DiCaprio is in love with this woman, and the Titanic is sinking. He lets her get up on the little barge thing, right? And she's holding his hand. She goes, "I'll never let go," and she just lets go right away.
Yeah, I'll never let go. Kisses his hand, lets him go.
Yeah, just like that, man. Just like that. But Jim, I think the other thing too is, I don't know about you, but I would have been looking around. Okay, I didn't bring a swimsuit, right?
Yeah.
No swimsuits. But dude, I tell you what.
Needed.
Yeah, but if you
the snow angels, that was interesting.
Oh, you did snow angels too. Oh my gosh, because you're over there, like you said, in January, right?
Yeah, this is January. This much snow on the ground, but honestly, though, it's the whole tradition is built around camaraderie and being there for each other.
Yeah,
and it's part of the culture, and so being kind of brought into the culture of the company and the culture of the country was a really great experience. Really enjoyed it. Went to a sauna at a gun range one time. That was another interesting story, but we'll save that for another time.
All right. No, I dig it, man. I really do. And, hats off to you because, I could tell it was a great experience for you. And I can also tell you're probably glad to be back, right?
Yeah.
You can always go swimming in Lake Michigan in January if you want to, right?
Can. Yeah.
Cool.
No, again, it was great people and really interesting product. And I'm fortunate. I feel fortunate for the time that I got to spend there and the travel. I went not only to Finland, but I also went to Canada quite a bit, and Mexico for a little while, and all over the United States. Going to these mines and going to these process facilities that are really kind of backwater and country roads, and you just never notice them or see them, and so you get to learn a lot about the infrastructure and the people behind that, and. I took a lot of that information, a lot of those experiences, and brought it over to KMC. Not the sauna part, but just the experiences of what does it mean to monitor a process that is dirty, dull, or dangerous, and take those same principles and apply them to building automation. And along with that comes expectations from the industrial side over to the commercial building side, which is similar in some ways and different in others, but how can we take some of the best of that
and bring it over?
It's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
So were you doing marketing there as well, Tim?
I was North American sales director for their IoT product.
Okay.
Focused on looking at pump curves, pump efficiency, vibration analysis, temperature analysis of pumps and valves, and again these kind of major industrial processes.
The difference between a commercial and industrial a lot of times is industrial. If you screw up, it can cost you millions of dollars, right? One little mistake. Where buildings, you might get some people mad at you or whatever. But Tim, walk us through. So let's get back, because KMC, obviously your customers know what a great brand it is and what you guys are about. When you sort of talk about Commander and things like that, talk to our audience a little bit about who is KMC really positioned for, and what is Commander all about?
So KMC Controls is a family-owned company, and we're American-made. Back of my shirt that I'm wearing today, I was at a company picnic just today. Talks about it being proud to be American-made. That's a core part of our ethos and value system, and we want to build American jobs and American products, and we think that there's a lot of advantages to that. We're also supporting our communities everywhere we have employees, and so we're supporting American communities. Everything we do is here in the States, so that's everything from our plastic injection molding to the SMT machines that are building the individual electronics, and it's kind of a labor of love for a lot of us to go and be a part of it. I've before we started talking here, we talked about how I brought my boys to work with me yesterday. They're 7 and 9, and I got to do for the first time, because I felt like they would, respect my wishes and commands. What is let me go show you the factory, and we walked through, and someone on the SMT line stopped and told my boys how everything worked, and they were asking just these amazing questions, and so for them to be able to be there and see what it's like. One of the things that we call KMC, and this is sort of a newer thing for us, is a generational community. And it's a community where we ask ourselves, what kind of company and culture are we building? And is it one that I would want my family members or children to work for? And so we just take that hyper serious, and we can because of who we are.
Yeah.
And, that's just another core value of ours. Now, that's kind of the value system of KMC. The other side of KMC is the product, and we're dedicated to providing world-class technology and trying to stay ahead of it. KMC Commander is certainly a part of that, and that's a cloud-based system, cloud-native system that's built around monitoring and controlling your HVAC, your lighting, your energy management, but doing so in a way that is open. And I know you've had lots of conversations with people about what open means. To us, it's we don't really care where the data comes from. We don't really care where the data goes, and so we just want to be as interoperable and friendly to others in the space as possible, and that includes competition. The pie is huge, and the slices are very well portioned. And I think we could all be in this industry together. There's no reason to be putting each other down.
Love it.
So let's find those ways to work together. And one of the ways we do that is when we go and we talk to a portfolio owner or a school district or someone that has all these different systems in there. We say invite those people to the conversation. Let's invite them in, not just because we want information from them, but we want them to feel that they are a part of the project, that they're a part of the solution. Because obviously, and honestly, they're a critical part of whatever the customer has in there. If we could save the customer money by not having to do a rip and replace, now we're being an advocate for the customer, and we get to invite new partners to the table to say, hey, this interoperability thing, this open thing, it's all absolutely worth it, and we could all stay engaged together. How does that sound? And typically the answer from the other side is, okay, yeah, let's do that.
Nice. Nice.
And that leads to other kinds of conversations that I'm trying to bring to the industry as well.
Well, I want to get to those in a second. You just opened that door, so we're gonna go through that door in just a second. But
sure.
One of the things about Commander I thought was it was really accessible. I mean, because you guys, if memory serves me correct, it was kind of a joint venture with you guys and Dell, and was it Intel?
Yep.
As well. And so it was accessible, meaning that it was relatively easy to set up, work with, program. It was very flexible, and it was also very much would just say it wasn't price prohibitive. It was very, very, I think, fair price point.
Yep.
And anything else you want to say about the Commander? Because that is really a cool product.
We didn't set out to try to replace the traditional systems. I think in some cases this HVAC system is so simple that you don't need the more complex, BAS on top of it. Commander could be a good fit. Otherwise, we like to say that Commander's a cherry on top. How can we get just the information you want in a way that's the easiest possible way to get it via the internet at the same URL, whatever the site is, and then only pull the data points that are most important. Why do we have to pull everything up? Why do we have to make it so complicated? Why do we have to make it so expensive? If we can give, again, an end customer and be an advocate of theirs and give them exactly what they want to see on all the kinds of tablets or devices they want to see them on, let's do that. And then, yes, let's do it in a way that is not cost prohibitive. And, how can we do it in a way that, again, is open and we can sit on top of anything out there or work with anyone? And the flip side of that is, it's a drum that I think is probably going to beat for another 5 to 10 years. But you have the IT side and the OT side, and it's coming together. And Commander was a way to help bridge that gap because KMC was very firmly on the OT side. We had just introduced IP controls. But that's still really just OT. It's a different way that OT communicates. And now as soon as you start talking about cybersecurity and you start talking about cloud-based access, not even cloud-based, but cloud native, we're not just hosting something on an AWS server. There are so many microservices on the back end running it. Once you start doing that, now you're really bringing together the IT and OT side. And now you have to bring your customers along with you, and you have to, again, invite people to the conversation, and that includes IT. Don't shun IT. Bring them in and tell them up front, this is what we're doing, here's how we're doing it. And you know what? 90% of the time, 95% of the time, they're going to be comfortable with it because of the way that we're approaching it. Well, so that's kind of where Commander, again, it's not just another BAS system.
Exactly.
It's we're trying to elevate that conversation a little bit more.
Yeah, so you guys are like the Ted Lasso team, for lack of a better metaphor. So, Tim, you've been at the game for a while. What are your customers asking for differently, or how are they approaching BAS? Are there different players coming to the table versus? I mean, it seems to me like things have just changed very rapidly just over the last 2 years. Are you seeing that? And if so, what are your customers asking for now that they didn't ask for before?
I don't think it's any secret to say that supply chain's been a struggle, and customers have really had to adapt to figure that out. I think as much as it hurt a lot of different HVAC vendors, what it forced system integrator partners to do, if we look at it in different channels, the system integrator channel, they started looking at other solutions because they needed to find something that was available. We had other system integrators coming to us, and our own system integrators were going to other people. Again, I don't think that's a secret. Everyone experienced that.
Right.
Either from the BAS side to the VFD side, variable speeds, to the parts and pieces, to the sensors. I mean, it was everything. So that forced people to get a little more exposure to things that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise looked at because they were comfortable. And so, again, there's pros and cons to all that. But now we're starting to get more questions and more comparisons, and I think for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
So that's both keeping us honest as a manufacturer, and it's really inspiring us to make sure that we're staying ahead of the game. And we're continuing to do that.
The other side. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, the other side that we're seeing is we have more types of people coming to us as a manufacturer because the procurement channels are changing. And then even the new customers that come to us, they're asking us not even necessarily to buy from us, but could we sell to someone else because they're trying to limit their number of vendors.
Okay. So when you say that
procurement channels are happening, are going all over the place.
Yeah, say more about how the procurement channels are changing.
So, we have a national customer, and they wanted to purchase our software and hardware, and they didn't want to set up a direct relationship with us because they are trying to limit the number of vendors that they buy from. The quote they made was, "We want fewer throats to choke," which not a new phrase, but in this case, it's like, wow, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
In the past, we would have said, we want to fight for that business, or go to one of our distributors that we've already set up. Stromquist is a great example. I don't know how many customers or system integrator partners we've pushed to Stromquist.
Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome. Tell Rob I said hi. And so the flip side of that now is you have this national customer, but they're asking to buy from someone else that's not even what I would call a traditional OT distributor. They're saying, well, can we buy from, so-and-so, this hardware manufacturer? It's like, I don't see why not, right?
Yeah.
But what they're trying to do is because we don't want to sign up anyone else. This is a relationship we already have. I've had that conversation probably 3 times with 3 different people. And another great example of one of those distributors that I think is upsetting, not upsetting the market, but it's introducing nuance to the market, is someone like an Aero Electronics or a CDW IT, an IT wholesaler.
Right.
They're putting a few points on it and, pushing out millions and millions of dollars. And but again, the school districts, municipalities, all those things are just starting to kind of change and morph. And it's It's interesting to stay
Yeah.
ahead of it, while obviously respecting the relationships you have and the channels you've already established, but also being able to adapt.
Well, you guys have always, KMC is always, one of the things I've always admired about you guys is you're very loyal. You talk about the family values. You guys have always shot straight. You do what you say you're going to do, and I think that's really appreciated in the industry, and you guys have a great reputation. Tim, I wanted to pivot because, before COVID, it seemed like there were different concerns. Owners would talk to us about, how we're going to save energy or how we're going to do this. After COVID, it seems like the conversation's pivoted to, well, how do we get people to come back into our buildings, right? Mm-hmm. And so it seems like there's some different objectives there. And I was curious if you had thoughts about that. And also, have you had any of your customers ask you about ESG yet? Is that factoring into what you guys do? Specifically, the sustainability part, the environmental part, not the other part, but, reporting, specifically the reporting of data to show that they're being good citizens.
Yeah. So, you talked about pivoting priorities. Before COVID, I think energy and really focused on energy cost. That was the biggest thing. How can we reduce our energy spend? Obviously, we want people to be comfortable. Obviously, we want people to be healthy and safe. But it was money. How can we reduce that?
Yeah.
And I think a good example of that, which then pivots into the pivoting changes that have gone through our industry, was simple things. What sort of sensors are you putting in your buildings? We can give you temperature, humidity, occupancy, and CO2. What do you want? What's cheapest? Temperature. Let's do that. And so what happened is everyone got temperature, unless, of course, there was already regulations like in California that said CO2 had to be a part of it. Maybe there was a spec that some engineer wrote, whatever it is. If it was purely cost-driven, it was temperature only. And then COVID happened. And COVID made a lot of people go crazy and spend crazy kinds of money on, I would say, not so great sort of things. In some cases they were fits, in other cases they weren't. I see like a lot of school districts throwing in air purifiers, and the air purifier, just the amount of money that was spent on air purifiers. BPI is another example. And then, once that initial rush trying to get everything out there was done, then it was, okay, so, for maybe a year and a half, really strong push around IAQ. I want to know about indoor air quality. And I don't know what other people saw. There was a lot of talk about it. I did not see a lot of dollars flowing. And the reason being is because it wasn't just about monitoring, but it was about, you got to have the data. Mm-hmm. Well, what kind of sensors do we have in? Well, it looks like because you were saving money before, all you have is temperature sensors. And, well, what do we need? Well, we would recommend at least CO2 and at least airflow. And what sort of filters are you putting in? Oh, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to bump up to MERV 13. It's like, oh, really? Like, are those going to fit? Well, how much is that going to cost? Well, $80,000 to retrofit each of your units. Oh, okay, well, we don't want to do that. So it was, well, what do you want to do? And it's like, well, we'll just kind of wait and see. We'll just run our systems full out. And so then there was 6, 9, 12 months of people now spending 30, 40% more on their energy, and everyone walking around cold because the ACs were just pumping out because they're trying to get air changes per hour up. And now what we're seeing is everyone's back to, okay, COVID's over. We want to go back to at least spending what we were spending before. And now what you said, Eric, is now we have these ESG goals or environmental goals or net zero goals, which, it's
Kill the
interesting
carbon,
when you do
baby.
things like this, Eric, because you have these personal opinions that you want to share, but you also just want to be honest. And so, but this is what I'll say is, I think there's so many people that mean well around their ESG goals because they're trying to reduce what they perceive as impact on the climate, which is a noble thing. But they just simply are making these goals without any sort of informed decision-making behind it, right? Where's the energy coming from to move everything to electricity? I think there's efficiency gains to be met. And then you talked about ESG in general, which, on the podcast I've mentioned a couple times, I think the E is the side that we could all get behind.
Yeah.
The S and the G part, I think, is being erroneously lumped together with energy. I think we should keep those issues separate. Now, again, I'm not advocating for or against it and saying that.
No,
I just think it's absolutely a shame that we're potentially going to scuttle what we can do around energy because we're just trying to do too much all at once. And so I've been an advocate of trying to have your goals, and let's be honest about them, but let's not lump too much together into one.
Well, my point being, I think it's the environmental part's a great opportunity for our industry, just simply because we're the ones that have the data. If you're going to do the reporting, you read different things, but it seems like it's got to be data-based. And what better place to get a data and suck it out of a Commander controller or a Niagara Jace or whatever. So I think being sensitive to that could potentially be a great opportunity for all of us in this industry to be the ones to step and go, hey, we can help you with that part of the reporting. The rest of it, you're kind of on your own, right? So it's interesting stuff. But dude, listen, podcast, brother, man, I'm a big fan of your podcast, Building Geniuses. Now, I have noticed that you've had a lot of really great guests on there, and I'm just, I filled out the form. Obviously, I did not pass the IQ test, but but maybe if you ever do one like, Building Almost Geniuses, I could get on. But man, it's a great podcast. Tell me about that and what had you do it, and tell our audience all about Building Geniuses.
So, it's twofold. One is I wanted to start having conversations in our industry that were more people focused. I wanted to hear people's stories. I wanted to hear who they had learned from, because when you're at work or you're at an event and or you're sitting at a bar or and you hear these stories, and it's like everyone just sits there and they're like listening to, it's like, well, like when I first started, I was at Johnson Controls, and at Johnson Controls, we were doing such and such in that day. And it's like, those are the stories that like we just all love. And then there's always like, some side splitting, off topic thing that then
like
comes
when I got in the sauna with
hilarious. But, then like everyone sort of chips in. It's like, that's the part of the industry that so many of us love.
Yeah.
And there's enough podcasts out there talking about the technology side and the marketing side and the issues that we're having as an industry. But one of the issues we're having is labor, and I just don't think we're telling our industry story very well.
Well said.
And so again, we could talk about the future and what's coming and the new technology, but what about the people that are already here? How can we learn from them while they're still here? But then, let's hear about some of the newcomers that have a little bit of momentum under their feet and say, so how did you get to this point? I mean, it took you 4 years. I mean, that's not very long. We could all think 4 years ago, and so we could look 4 years ahead. How did that impact your career, your opportunities, or the people that you got to meet? And I feel like I told a little bit of my story about my path through KMC. My path has been very similar. I started in 2016, so was that 7 years ago next month?
Wow.
And, it's not a long time compared to the guys that have been around 40 years. How long have you been around, Eric?
I was telling my son, close to 50 years.
Yeah, so it's like 50 years of experience. And that's 50 years of stories, 50 years of history that I don't have. And so I just wanted to build a forum where I could ask those kinds of questions and hear it from all over commercial real estate and building automation. And, I'm obviously only scratching the surface. Obviously, I haven't gotten to you. That's 50 years I haven't explored. But, it's like there's good sides and there's bad sides to all these stories.
Yeah.
There were mistakes and there were, great things that happened. Let's just talk about it all, because if we can't talk about how we have failed, then, none of us are really ever going to succeed. So that's kind of the overall idea of the podcast. We've done 24 episodes so far. Wow. Every single one of them has been great.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
We'll be starting season 3, probably recording those because we kind of record them in batches.
Yeah.
We're starting to record those in July or August.
Nice. Well, compliments to you, Tim, because as you know, because you're really good at it, not everybody can pull the stories out and keep it, kind of fun and entertaining. You do, they call you a host for a reason, and you do a really nice job. For our audience out there, if you haven't listened to the Genius podcast yet, it is really, really, it's entertaining. It's informative. Everything Tim described, he's delivering on. So I'll put a link in the show notes for the Building Geniuses podcast. And be sure to put in your comments, why haven't you had Eric on yet? We know he's not a genius, but he's an old guy.
Yeah. If I can get 100 likes on your LinkedIn video, you will be in season 3.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Wow.
100 likes.
100 likes for Tim.
No insightfuls, no laughing. It's got to be a thumbs up.
I got you. Well, now, of course, there are sort of poor podcasters like me who have to edit our own videos. And then there are your sort of elite podcasters like Tim who have a team that edit their podcasts for them. So take that into consideration too, folks.
That's right. Yeah. So, with that, though, Eric, shout out to Michael Dickin. He is our video specialist. He does all of our videos for our YouTube channel. He does all the podcasts. He is incredibly talented. Yeah. I love having him on the team. So, shout out to Michael.
Yeah, good job, Michael. Yeah, he does great work for sure. Okay, so KMC, man, where are you guys going to be this year? You got any summits? You going to be at any shows? What's next for KMC when people want to track you guys down?
So depending on when this gets released, we will be at Realcomm IBCon. We'll have a booth and a kiosk, and then I'm going to be a part of a panel around indoor air quality.
Sweet.
And looking at less so the technology and more the efficacy of the technology. What's the outcome? I think that's really, really going to be good. I've been joking, it's like I'm going to be on a panel of distinguished guests. I will not be a part of the distinguished part. But I think there's at least 3 other people, a professor from the University of Colorado, the guy that is the architect and BAS director for Chicago Public Schools, the 3rd largest school district in the United States.
Nice.
It's going to be an amazing panel, and so I'm just really, I feel fortunate to be able to be a part of it. The part that I will be contributing is really going to be around that data side and sharing that data with anyone so that we can ensure that all the efficacy of our indoor air quality projects, whatever those KPIs are, that those are actually being hit.
Well said, Tim. And I think you're spot on about, with our listeners out there listening about the ESG reporting. You really got to get centered on the environmental side because you got to get the right data. We've got the tools to extract the data. We've also got the ability to give you the sensors that will get you the data that's meaningful. But partnering with somebody like KMC Controls or, really pretty much any of the manufacturers in our industry that, is a good start for anybody out there that's listening and wants to know how to get on board with the E part of the ESG thing. Buddy, so Realcomm IBCon, I'll be there, so I'm going to come listen to you speak. And what else, brother? How do people get hold of you? How do people get hold of you? How do people get hold of KMC?
Sure. Well, we do have
KMC
a couple
Controls.
of other...
Get hold of KMC Controls,
Yeah, we do have a couple of other events that we're going to be a part of. I know we have sales guys all across North America, and they're going to be at individual shows, some smaller shows. But we're also helping to put together with the Building Cybersecurity Organization a couple of events that are going to be taking place this fall. So that'll be really exciting. Some new things. Can I share some new things about KMC?
I want to know some new things about KMC. That was my next question. See, you're such a good host. You can even ask your own questions. This is perfect.
Excellent segue, Tim.
Yeah, right.
So KMC, I always joke it's a lot of the same, which means there's a lot of new things happening.
Nice.
KMC Commander continues to grow and evolve. I just had a conversation with a partner today that hadn't looked at it in a couple years, and when he looked at it, he goes, "Is this the same thing?" It's like, yeah, it's the same thing.
Wow.
And so we've made so many new improvements and feature updates. I just encourage everyone, go look at our YouTube channel and learn more about it. And then obviously reach out to me. I want to talk to you and figure out how we can help you with that.
Give us 1 or 2 updates that maybe wowed this guy when he looked at it.
Sure. So, last year we released an all-new user interface, which opened us up to be able to add all kinds of new features. Some of those features includes things like floor plans and heat maps and graphics light. We're not trying to redo the old traditional graphics, but graphics light. And then we're introducing some new things around how can you better troubleshoot your system when you know it's in override or when you're interacting with the backnet side of your backnet systems. And then we're also starting to implement now some new security features, which I think are going to be really, really important as we look to all kinds of new and different customer bases. So
nice.
We're really driving towards that. We have been talking about a product called, with a partner of ours called Veridify, a product called Dome, which is all about securing your OT networks. Very excited about that. We'll be bringing that to market here in the next couple of months, a fully commercialized solution, which, again, we've been working on for a long time. I'm glad to be able to bring that up. We have a new airflow measurement system, which we've been talking about for the last year and a half or so. When you talk about a solution that is cheaper than the existing alternative, more accurate, and can fit in more places, that's one of the reasons our specs are starting to change.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. What's it called? I've actually seen the product. It's really cool.
So we call it the Airflow Measurement System, or AFMS.
Okay.
And so the KMC AFMS for all your IAQ needs.
There you go.
We almost get it, the whole alphabet in there. But that is really starting to kind of take, you take the industry by storm as much as you could take this industry by storm, but things are changing and conversations are happening. So it's fun to be able to witness that. I'm not so much connected to that product. We have other very smart people on the team that are really driving that. KMC Commander does have an aspect of it. We have a special page we built for it, but other than that, it's it's in the great hands of people like Jesse Shoemaker and Eric Kruder and Mitch Kaler, and they're just going out and pushing it like crazy. Clifford Milligan. So that's happening. And then something brand new, we haven't even announced it yet, Eric, and so more will be coming soon. But KMC Controls just recently hired a man named Ari Rubin to be a senior vice president of consulting for a group and service or a group of services and products that we'll be calling KMC Consulting. And it's going to be all around management consulting. It's going to be around project consulting. It's going to be talking to a different tier of customer than what our typical other channels hit. And so more information will be coming on that. We're going to get some videos. He's going to be in the office next week as we go. And
give me an example of the type of customer he might talk to. When you say would be talking to project managers or people that are managing project managers, I realize he's probably going to be doing a lot of different things, but just one customer set that you guys think he'll be helping on.
So I would say that the traditional HVAC market does not often talk to the C-suite.
Got it. Okay.
The C-suite is looking at business level decisions and management and process issues.
Right.
Those are things that he's very well suited to help, and he has a whole network of people that we're soon going to be bringing on board as well. And so he'll be able to, HVAC related, smart building related, tax related, commercial real estate and investment related. I mean, there's all kinds of new avenues this is going to hit. And a part of that is finding out what gaps those are in those processes and what you're trying to accomplish from a managerial standpoint, and then putting together a multi-vendor connected solution approach to make sure that you're getting the data, visualizing that data as much as necessary. So as the C-suite talks about ESG goals or net zero goals, he's going to be extremely finely tuned to be able to go and have those conversations, not just about HVAC, but about everything that's important to that business.
That is so cool. Was that a you idea?
No. It's a joint effort.
That's brilliant.
We all work together, Eric.
No, I understand. Ted Lasso, I know. You've seen the show, right? For our audience out there who haven't seen Ted Lasso, we're talking about Ted Lasso.
I would like to see the biscuit recipe because I would like to try it. You can find us online at KMCControls.com. You could also find us anywhere you get your podcast. Just search for the Building Geniuses podcast.
Right.
And additionally, check out YouTube, where you can find all of our greatest content from the Building Geniuses at KMC.
Right. And then if you want to locate Tim specifically, you can find him on LinkedIn or at a Finnish sauna near you. Look for ice water and saunas and you will find Tim. So, brother, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Eric.
So that's it. Another week on Control Talk now, the Smart Buildings Videocast and Podcast. Thank you so much to my guest this week, Tim Vogel, our sponsor this week, Siemens. And if you'd like to sponsor a show and have a commercial on the show, reach out to me. We'd love to help you with that. We got some great marketing solutions and would love to work with you. So remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant. And as Hunter Thompson used to say, buy the ticket, take the ride. We'll see you next week.